Hello, everyone, and welcome to this evening's edition of Literary Nights with Unsolicited Press. Today we have two authors with us, Andrew Brenza and Ron Pullins, who are going to each talk about poetry and fiction. But before we begin, I want to remind everyone to smash the like button, subscribe, follow, and don't forget to do that and ring the bell if you're on YouTube so that you know whenever the next time we will be on, and that's every other week on Wednesday evenings. So, welcome, Andrew. Welcome, Ron. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And thank you so much for being here. So, we usually go alphabetical order. Andrew, you're going to be first, followed by Ron. So, um, let's hear your work and about your books.
All right.
Andrew, begin.
Well, thank you so much, Rosalie. My name's Andrew Brenza, and the book that I will be reading from tonight is called Et al. Um, it is a book of erasure poems, a book-length erasure poem, I should say, um, based on a novella that I tried to write called The Eternal Dark. Um, It incorporates images. Each section, rather than chapters, is kind of divided by what I also do, which is called visual poetry, um, using basically language to make images of sorts. The text, which I don't think you can see very well, but in any case, the erasure is done not in the typical way of crossing out. Rather, it's done in a way where I faded out the background text to make some other text more prominent, the poem text. Um, in this way, I was hoping to create kind of like a ghostly effect, a kind of sense of this fog-like area of ambiguity and unreadability, and out of which comes these kind of ghostly, haunting voices, which is the poem. All right, so I will show you the images as they come up, and I will begin reading now. Et al. Etched from the eternal dark. Web, that is what it was. At the base of the tree, a deep breath, memory, stone. What was lost, glazed over. Now numbly night began to fall. Grew loud, rose like a creeping vine. Impressions and motivations, insurmountably obvious. The strength to flee. Stuck in conjectures, ambiguity made possible. As though disfigurement about man's sunken and inflated imagination couldn't pin it down. As though I were looking through the thinness of grief. I saw, I knew. I watched as the enfolded and carved thirst of evil fell strangled and sucked. Vision dawned, and pain, the markings glowing softly but horridly, sickening the situation. Suddenness and depth, a frenzy. You wouldn't let go, standing now with horror and disbelief, alerted in panic, would not believe, convinced of existence, summoning it. The next section begins with this image. I understood what feeding wrought. I also knew physical presence would set itself up as healer. Fallen into communal despair toward incidental self, slow, heavy with grain, perhaps by hunting the unsuspecting, perhaps though I, holding it tight, seemed about to run, light cast through the doorway. The totality was pathetic, mother fishing for any appearance of weakness. From nowhere and everywhere, looking for shapes in the dancing wind, the stream purling by the song's voice. I am here, the warmth of astonishment. Pensive as strangeness, movements coordinated by a single will. I left the shadows, the wound that haunted the woods, the remnants of a scream. The next section begins with this image. The song had ceased by strange and unwelcome noises, blinking through the trees, thinking, I will fight it. I slithered, I approached. My palms reciprocated, something like judgment, voice witnessing the prospect of shot-up arms. The distance between pursuit and ambush. Ahead, my concerns had not fed on the burns, because cruel senselessness after so much rage welled to make. Livid, beseeching breath, ill-hidden waves of song, to understand the obligation and the fabric of things. Attention, self, the back of her head, a great snake squeezing, a shadowy appendage. Pulling myself close, there I lay in the multi-layered warmth of my manifold body, there on the ground, soaring over rock and bowl, all at once, the thrill of land, breath, a roebuck, lithe as anything, the reach of my perceptions. I saw a kind hand on my cheek, enchanted, eyes, it was lovely, but soon I woke with a start. Maybe I'll do one more section. Begins with this image. Incandescent worms throughout a wild stream of recollections. An approaching visitor, the hopeless desire, a ghost in her mind. Please, there was decline, attack, silence, fatigue, and intimately. Without a gurgle, her skin a wild pain, moving in the next room. The weight of mother, standing now, swelling, damaged and altered in form. To manipulate to matter of degree, holes in the dark, profoundly vulnerable. The violence of the darkness around her thoughts. I just didn't have it in me when I heard the yapping, rose and shook the sleep from more men than I had woods, to keep a safe distance, to frustrate the ease of their stuck trajectory. They do not understand. They know I want to, think they do, but they are afraid. They throw love on the ground. They dug into the damp dirt of my love, wrapped by structure and twisted around the growing and spreading soil as though tickled. One gust away from personal annihilation. On and on, day after day, week after week, a forced stream. This pleased me, the approach of barley, smelling as I went, low mounds aware of the odor, the high grass, the clear evil. I forced myself to observe, visibly so, even in the dim moonlight. Mouth pinning in terror, arms until creature and concern in the icy flame note burned. Yet they exist, however dead, bone white, time and termites gaping like a maw, clear in the hollow. The utter stillness, a sacred dread, and I whimpered at my edges. Thank you.
Rosalie, you're muted now.
Yeah, I see it. All right, sorry about that. I try to mute in between. But now we're going to hear some fiction by Ron Pullins with his book that will be published on February 10th called Dolatorium. Welcome, Ron, and tell us about your book. And we're like anxious to hear you read.
Thank you. My voice is a little raspy too, but I'm going to speak up and smile. Anyway, uh, hello and thank to my fellow unsolicitors and anyone watching. Thanks for having me. I'm Ron Pullins. My book is Adulatorium. It's due out February 10th. Uh, I like to call it a fable of our time. It's a satire. It's a sneak peek, I think, into the late stage capitalism. We can weep and we can cry when we read it, I hope. One reviewer called reading it, we might as well giggle our way to ruin. So, what I'm going to do is read pieces from the book and kind of give you a sample of what it is and what it sounds like and give you the arc of the book as well. So, I'm going to begin at the beginning. It begins with Ralph, who works in a small corn dog, makes corn dogs in a small town in Kansas. As I read all, when I'm reading from the book. So Ralph makes corn dogs. Yes, he does, from scratch. That is to say, he grows his own corn and raises his own pigs. And from those pigs, he creates Ralph's famous corny do dogs. Wheaties impaled on little sticks, dipped in cornmeal batter, deep fat fried, hung to dry, and sold to folks who come for lunch at his corny do doggery. We recommend a squiggle of mustard along the top. They're also good plain, so have them like you want them. They always tasty corny do dog because, as Ralph says, when you see them dipped, you know they're fresh, never frozen. And fresh is something you just don't get in stores these days. No, not in corn dogs, not in nothing. Homegrown pork, stone ground corn, dipped right there in front of you. That's the ticket. Now, Ralph is married to Phyllis, his wife, who wants a little bit more out of life than working at the corny do. She wants what she thinks she feels she deserves, being born an American. So when the money master jumps out of a television set, she's been watching money shows and infomercials on how to make money. She likes particularly The Price is Right and shows like that. And he offers her a way to riches, and she becomes easily convinced. But she wants Ralph to do the work and not herself. She says, "Make Ralph rich," she says to the little man. "Heaven knows I've pestered him for years. He needs to work harder," I say. I say, "Quit reading all those books. All he does is read books, books, books. Read all you want," I say, "but make some money too." I say, "This is America. The economy's booming. Get us some of that boom," I tell him. "Our fair share and a little bit more," I say. "That's all I want." All Ralph does is make corn dogs and read books. He says, "It's a living." But I say, "What's a living if you're poor?" So after a good deal of persuasion by both his wife and the money master, Ralph finds himself coming around to the central argument that the money master makes. And Ralph says, "As far as I can tell, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting what? Screwed. Good work means less and less to other folks these days. What you can count is all that counts anymore. And you're ranked by how big a heap of it you've gotten." Of course, Ralph may be a maker of corn dogs. He also reads philosophy, especially Plato, and he can see with a little convincing how Plato fits into the idea of getting rich and the eternality of money as an idea. Things are not things now, are they, Mr. Plato? Ralph is thinking. I'm getting it now. Things are only things. Forms are perfect. Got it now. Like shapes, like numbers. Yes, got it. So what's good is that which never changes, is that which is eternal, immutable, like numbers, math. Got it. A corn dog is a corn dog, and corn dogs to be eaten, but money is a form, and forms are what's real. They never change and last forever. Money is forever. So convinced, Ralph goes on and he rolls into the Dolatorium and begins a series of lessons that he learns at the Dolatorium on getting rich and being rich and how to acquire money. As the money master says, as long as the poor want to be rich, they'll not want us to change. The rich, they will not want the rich to change. They want us to tell them what is good, what is right. They insist we be rich and act like it. Look, the best colleges are colleges where the rich people go. We package the poor people's dreams and sell them their own dreams back to them. Votes, dignity, freedom, sex, fears. My God, Ralph, we even sell them water. The master stops at that, turns to Ralph, for even to the jaded master, this is nearly incredulous accomplishment. Water, Ralph, he repeats. Water falls from the heavens. We put it in these little plastic bottles and sell it back to them. Water. No. So Ralph's daughter, Stella, however, is averse to all this business about business and making money and being wealthy. She worries about her father now that he's gone to the Dolatorium, and so she soon sets out to save him. She says, if someone has more money than they need, I suppose they can give to those without. But isn't charity just another form of selfishness? Let the rich alleviate their guilt by not taking more than they need. We do not need to create a desperate class so the rich can pity them and gloat over their own accumulations. Now, at the Dolatorium, the money master is served by a lot of people, but primarily by the sycophant. And he's been shaped, his character has been shaped by his long residency in the Dolatorium and his desire to become someday the money master or something like him. And he describes himself this way. I'm a dirty little rotten, stinking, smelly, sleazy rat, it says. I'm a rotten little wrench with all the cunning of a cat. I can cheat and steal and rob and kill and stab you in the back. I'm despicable and slimy with a heart that's cold and black. So Stella finds her father in the Dolatorium, being convinced of the beauty of wealth by the sycophant and the money master, and he's totally won over by the lessons that he's learned. His daughter, Stella, has some undoing to do as Ralph reveals to her his new business plan. What do you think you're doing here? Stella says. It's nothing, which comes to nothing, Daddy. She implores him, but Ralph is absorbed in peddling his newly acquired money machine. Pump, pump, pump. I got a plan, Stella, and it's worth a lot of money. Okay, here it is. We push down wages everywhere, so even wives and kids must work two jobs to make ends meet. Kids work, wives work, and they don't see each other or have time to talk, so we sell them phones and make them pay every month. And they work so long they don't have time to cook, so we sell them fast food, and they get fat, so we sell them diet food and special walking shoes, shoes, so they can walk, like they can't walk without special shoes, or exercise without belonging to a gym. There you have it, 1 million customers working to pay so they can overwork. We take a piece of all that. Daddy, Stella says, that's the way things already are. Oh, okay, so he continues. So while the rest, we'll sell them on television. No rational thoughts, no books, no newspapers, no conversations on the television. Then we'll put ideas in our heads about things they don't have, about things they want, about how bad they are, and things they need, things we sell. We'll call it advertising. Daddy, they already do that. Most have big screens too, and cable, and streaming, and I suppose they already have couches with those little beer holders. Widely available, Daddy, hugely popular. Okay, so sex. Yes, sex, that's good. Sex and fear. We'll sell them sex and fear. Show them so many guns they have to buy so they feel safe. Keep them constantly in fear. Politics and television, blogs and internet media, 24 hours a day. Crime and murder, war and guns, politics and sex. Tell them no matter what else they may be doing, they should be having sex. Daddy. When Ralph looks at her, she nods. Already done, Ralph says. Well, how about a news station that tells them 24/7 they are being cheated, robbed, and taxed to death? That immigrants are invading our country, raping our women, socialists cutting into our God given Social Security, forcing their communist health insurance on us. Fox News. Oh, okay. Okay. We'll keep them so anxious they won't go anywhere but the malls and fast food restaurants. Too fearful to cook, they order from DoorDash. Scared to go out the door, they order online. Scare them to death. So they only have sex home alone. When they start to think maybe they feel something. Daddy, yes, sweetheart, you're touching yourself. Ralph looks down. He discovers he is. Well, the sycophant, meanwhile, has been running around the dolatorium trying to take control of the situation and to win over the schooling of Ralph and the money involved. I hear the coming of the Bitcoin era, sycophant says. For one last time, he is bent over. Then let the world fill with wealth as I give birth to the new financial order. The sycophant lets go an enormous fart that can be heard miles away from the dolatorium. Anyway, then it's over. The book comes to a conclusion. Ralph has returned home, saved by his daughter from the lessons of the dolatorium and his misconceptions that has brought him. And his wife also has learned the value of honest work. So the last paragraph of this story. Soon the doors are open for the Coney Dudoggery. And for the next few hours, you'll find yourself among the many customers who line up for service. There are more of us today than usual. Perhaps Ralph's little absence from the store has stirred our appetites. Many of us promised to come back tomorrow. The corn dogs are as good as ever. They could have sold them all, but today they held back a few. On the way to the bank, Phyllis stops by one of the places she knows and shares the last remaining dogs with those in need. A gift to those who have less for now, and for some who might never have relished the best. And that's the end of the book. That's kind of the arc of the book.
Thank you so much for sharing your work. So we have two different, starkly different works. The tome is about erasure, and then a satire of our society based on Greek philosophy. So let's talk about what inspired each of you to 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 do these works. I guess we'll start with Andrew.
As I said, it was originally an attempt at writing a novella that went pretty badly. Uh, but out of the ashes, I started messing around with kind of like, this kind of erasure technique, which I found quite productive. And the voices that came out of it, the images that came out of it were startling to me. So I kept up with it. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's about it, really. I mean, I'm always working on something. I mean, I consider myself an experimental poet. I do a lot, as I said, visual poetry, which is like the use of language to make images. You probably might think of like shape poems, like about a horse that's in the shape of a horse or something like that. But it's not really. It's much more abstract. What I was trying to show you, but. I'm always, trying to play with my work, try to see where it'll lead me. So, leave it at that. Thank you.
And so, how did you come up with the idea of erasure? Because most writers create something to put on the page, and you are creating something by taking things off the page.
Yeah, I think that's the poet in me. I mean, I've been a poet for a long time, so fiction was something new to me. But when the poetry I've liked, the poetry I've always tried to write, you really try to get down to the essence of the language, and so erasure is seemed natural to me. I mean, there's also quite a bit of. I mean, it's got a long history, erasure poems, so
Hmm.
it's not
I'm
like I.
thinking of E. Cummings. And Ron, can you talk about what inspired your incredible satire here of our society?
Sure. Uh, by the way, I love erasure, and I think it's always fun to find what's inside, find something inside something. Uh, anyway, so at one time in my life, I published some books and was very fascinated with Aristophanes and wanted to write something as funny and as absurd as what he was doing with great comedy. And I was inspired by a book called The Clouds, one of his plays called The Clouds, where he lampoons philosophers. And we don't really need to lampoon philosophers because they don't threaten society as much as rich people do. So that's where that came from, was an effort to kind of put a lot of anger that I feel about the debasing of our culture through money and marketing and advertising and greed and all the crap that goes along with being the riches and even our ideals. So that's what inspired that. Uh, that's where that came from. And it's been a long time in process. That actually was at one time was a play, uh, and now I turned that into a book.
So, how did you come up with the character Ralph and the corn dog idea?
Well, don't we all love corn dogs? Uh, so, and Ralph is just uh, a normal, if not, he's not really a hero because he's more normal than that. He's just a guy who likes to do what he does and does it extremely well, who's inspired by outside forces to aspire to something more, and I think something that is attractive largely because of its fakeness, but it's as absence sometimes creates a kind of inner vacuum. I think Ralph was inspired by his wife to become rich, and uh, I really liked the fact he was in a kind of a small town. He's self-contained, and his family is self-contained, and I think that's kind of that he provides an answer for what do we do in a world where work is so debased, where jobs require us to almost uh, pollute ourselves for riches, profits, cheapness, shoddiness. Ralph is kind of a holdout for quality. So those were the attributes that I wanted to put into Ralph.
So, does Ralph ever realize that he was actually sitting on the authenticity of a good product all along with the corn dogs? Does he ever figure that out?
Oh yeah, he's really quite happy. The best corn dogs in the world, and he's got customers who tell him so, and he enjoys his job and loves his life, but he also loves his wife. And so, in an attempt to please her, he's willing to try this, and it's very captivating. And he really gets into it. He really learns the lessons of how to market, how to borrow money from a bank, what the value of money is or can be, bitcoins, and so he's captured. Who uh, it's his daughter who always is the grounding force in the novel that seeks to bring him back to wake up, Ralph. I mean, you have it good. You can make something people really truly want, and you can sell it for a price that's affordable. And you know. So
And Andrew, you like Ralph, who loves his wife. I sort of detected that there was a character in your poem that sort of looks at a woman who is in the bloom of motherhood with that same outlook. Talk about the imagery, how you came to the imagery of your poem and the language of it, the erasure, but also it puts so much on the paper.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I found really intriguing about it was kind of like the suggestion of narrative. Like there's almost a story happening, but you never quite get to see enough of it to sort of get the full picture. I mean, I think there definitely are some characters in there. You know, there's the mother character. There's definitely a female character based on the pronouns. There's an I. Um, but I mean, I think kind of the magic of it is the fact that they kind of get lost in each other and you know, maintain kind of exist in this kind of dream place.
It kind of reminds me of that book, Conversations in the Cathedral, by a South American writer whose name escapes me right now. But the entire novel is just snatches of conversation, and you don't know who's saying anything. And but as the book unfolds, it sort of all comes together as whose voice is what. So it kind of reminds me a little bit about that because it's, there are characters, but you don't exactly know who they are. But you got to stick with the work long enough, and then you get it, sort of.
Yeah, sort of, definitely. I mean, it's these are almost like snippets of voices, like something you might hear in the wind that you might, you know, make you pause and listen for again, but you maybe don't ever quite get it. You know, you're never
Hmm.
allowed to get it all.
Yeah, no, that's what I like about it. Is it's sort of like snatches of this and that, sort of that float around us, and we don't even. Sometimes we see it, and sometimes we don't. So let's talk a little bit about language. Um, how do you come to your language? It's very hard to write the images that you were writing, Andrew and Ron. The imagery that you. I mean, it's very hard to write comedy in the way that you did. So, can you talk a little bit about how you approached your craft with this book, with these books?
talk to me.
Sure.
Uh, uh, yeah. First of all, I would say if I told you how I wrote these books, the other thing, the caveat I would give is never try to do what I do because it's terrible. It's a painstakingly long, difficult process. I'm an incredible reviser. I just nothing is ever finished. So spare yourself. But the language that what I the work that I do, I set apart for myself, and I listen to the voices, and I read things over and over again until they kind of fix themselves. And the same with images, and uh, I'm never quite too sure where I'm going. So I probably would say this is kind of an anti-craft way of going about writing a novel, and it's long and tedious. But I can't help but say I love being there when I'm there because it's all the world is there in the words for a
Hmm.
moment. Those precious few moments we get when it's all just there, and
Yeah, I
I'm so
understand
curious.
that. And where did the title come from? Dolatorium.
Well, it's well, it's a school for making money. Uh,
Okay.
Auditorium, you're in an auditorium, you're kind of a university, you know, and what is proving kind of interesting for me is that it's a word I made up. So it's really easy to search online for the auditorium because there's, which is kind of interesting. Uh, uh, so I don't think it's going to become coinage over time, but for me, it's kind of interesting. It's a Latin word, by the way.
Well, well, that's what I was referring to, the Latinate. background or the
Right.
reference to the word.
Right.
So Audrey, let's talk about your images that divide each section. How did those come about? How did they end up being in your book? And why did they end up at the beginning or as the dividers of the sections? And that are they your original artwork?
Yes, I did make those images. They're also made from the text of the book. Uh, I have kind of a complex process of using different programs to kind of make these kinds of things. But I'm always interested in the interplay between language and image, whether it's a physical image or descriptive one. Um, I also kind of felt that, so in some ways, I think these images kind of are also another layer of kind of the enactment of the suggestion of this narrative. They in some ways are another level of that. Um, Also, I felt, just as reading the manual. At first, I had written it all as just an erasure poem,
Hmm.
but it needed some breaks. It was just a little too much to go straight through it. So they kind of act like chapter breaks in a sense,
Hmm.
just to give you pause, give you a break, give the eye a break, recalibrate.
And how long did it take you to do all these pictures with the poems and the erasure? Because as painstaking as Ron describes his process, yours also sounds equally as painstaking. So, how long did it take you to do that or to
Uh,
work on
you
this
know,
book?
um, I mean, quite a while. I mean, one of the things I typically do. I mean, I typically I'm always working on something, and I typically work in kind of bursts. So, I mean, I think I probably had a draft in a couple of weeks of starting it. But like Ron, you go back and you edit it again. You try to pull out the more interesting parts, and you know, get rid of the redundancies, all that kind of stuff. So.
So, let's talk about the writing process for you. And for both of you, like, do you each write every day? Do you keep journals? What is your approach to the writing life like? Ron, do you want to talk about? You were a publisher at one time, so I'm sure you have a process. So, can you talk about how you approach the work?
Yeah, I because it's kind of a different thing. I feel, for me, it's a long time getting into that place that I'm going. I feel like I'm searching, scrambling to hear the story, and approaching this. I'm not setting myself up as a writer. I'm not saying I need to write, although I think it's a wonderful habit. I'm going to write 30 minutes a day. I spend a lot of time sneaking up on the work and then trying to grab those few moments. And so it's more me trying to scramble to get into the work than to try to push the words out and create a work. So it's less creativity than listening. Uh, and like, trust me, I would never recommend this method to anybody because it gives me the kind of satisfaction when it happens. Uh, so, uh, and I'm often astonished by what I hear.
What do you mean you're
What
astonished by what you
Andrew
hear?
had that, and Andrew had a nice little phrase, the warmth of astonishment. And I think that's very much what I feel when I reach that point and I can write a paragraph or revise a page that I've read 30 times. And I honestly do revise that many times. So it's my process. And I really recommend it to no one. Stay away from it. Learn to knock it
And
off real
Andrew, what
quick.
what is your process? Do you write every day? Do you keep journals?
Yeah, I make something every day, I would say, or I'm working on something every day. But I mean, I completely agree with Ron that those moments of astonishment are what you're after. um, but I mean, I generally feel that creativity breeds creativity. I mean, I have a hard time keeping up with the ideas, finding the time to test them all. So I don't have trouble do,
So
making
no
things.
writer's block for you. So a lot of aspiring writers listen to this, this stream readings. What is your best advice do you want to give to aspiring writers, whether it's about getting the work done or about getting published? What do you think is the most important steps that they need to take in order to achieve whatever writing goals they want, whether it's getting published or finishing something, or what is your best advice to aspiring writers? Anybody to begin?
So I'll jump in real quick. I think there's a lot more to getting your stuff out there, marketing it, production stuff, covers, all that. And it's interesting, and it can be a lot of work. Uh, but the essential piece is the work that you're doing, and to be honest with yourself, and get as far into yourself and your voice as you possibly can. Please yourself, and then see if you can't please one other person, and then see if you can't expand that. But your there's machines that can write now, and there's 10,000 other people writing novels too. But you are who you are, and if you can reach that genuine moment of truth in yourself, people will be interested. I think
And Andrew,
that's
oh, Ron, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you weren't finished.
no, I'm finished.
Oh, okay. Andrew, what is your best advice to aspiring poets or writers out there?
No, I mean, I would just say keep doing it. Don't be discouraged. Um, it's just you're going to get rejected a lot. It's going to happen, but if you love it, you'll be happy doing it.
All right. Well, that
Could
concludes
I add one
our.
other point?
Go ahead, Ron.
Could I add one other point? And I do
Sure.
think it's really important to find a group with
Mhm.
like-minded people or people who respect what you're doing. I think it's too easy to. I know too many writers who write alone, and it's a lonely job. Jeez. So there's those moments of satisfaction along the way that you can have with a group, whether it's an online group or a school group or a group of people that meet Saturday mornings. It's really, really a great generative because once people get to know you and honestly want to help you come along as a writer, that feeds the beast, at least in
Mm.
my experience.
Yeah, a lot of people swear by being in a writers group. So, so I want to let everyone know that our next reading is February 4th, 8:30 Eastern Time and 5:30 Pacific Time. I hope you will join us. I'd like to thank everyone tonight who joined us and for your lovely comments to our authors this evening. Please don't forget to like and follow and subscribe and hit the bell and all that. And I want to thank Andrew and Ron for sharing your wonderful work with us this evening. I want to also let everyone know that these books are available on Unsolicited Press's website or where good books are sold anywhere. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for reading, and until February 4th. Hope you have a great rest of the next 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
So